These are the federal entities, agencies that make sure that you're compliant. The bad part is when you hear these names, it's usually because they're stepping in because a company wasn't compliant. So it's usually bad news, especially the SEC. The SEC regulates securities, stocks and bonds for industry for publicly traded companies. They handle how they take care of stocks, bonds. They handle how the IT should minimize risks. Matter of fact, this isn't in your book, but they worry about what's called a 10K and an 8K. A 10K usually discloses cybersecurity risks and vulnerabilities that a particular organization has had. They have to, it's a yearly, I believe it's annually, so it's somewhere, I think it says annually, but anyway, but that's one of the items that the organization has to disclose to the SEC about what things have happened within the year. And 8K is if an incident has happened, you need to notify the investors within, I believe it's 4 days of an incident that's happened that could be critical to the organization. So I put a link here for you to take a look at. So please take a read of it. That'll be helpful for your next interview. The next one's FDIC, which I don't think it's really much. There's if you're in a banking organization, it makes a big deal. It ensures banks don't collapse and that there's at least money will be there, well, at least up to $250,000. That's another entity you have to worry about. Again, only if you have to deal with the banking. Department of Homeland Security, that's actually a big one. It's in charge of protecting from the U.S. from attacks and natural disasters. We've actually talked about it before in Chapter 2, and I'll go over a little bit more detail in a minute. Next is the FTC. You really don't want to piss them off either. Let's put it that way. So this, well, rightfully so, it prohibits unfair or deceptive practices from businesses doing some shady stuff. So that sounds okay, right? Yeah. So the FTC is a leading agency on data security. It has 2 other items that it oversees, which is both the Bureau of Consumer Protection, which does exactly what you think it does, and Bureau of Competition. And well, I think you can figure out what that one does. Now, I'll go into some detail, a little bit more detail about each of these. But again, I at least want you to know the names of those that you're going to have to keep an eye out for. That's the compliance. We talked about compliance. And now these are the entities that are looking at those compliance laws and going, hey, did you really do this? This is the human part of our compliance. The other part of compliance is the rules that are all listed. So here's our 2-part of compliance and risk management. There's actually 2 more entities that you have to actually worry about as well. It's both the U.S. Attorney General. That's the one that looks at all of the United States. And then you have your own state's Attorney General between all the different states of the United States. Those are the laws and people that are going to be looking at to see if you're being compliant. So notice all of these different agencies, there's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of redundancies in this, which is good and bad. But these are people you don't want to piss off. Let's just put it that way. Now, here's a couple of links that I gave you from Dr. Paula DeWitt, who I credit at the end here, of a couple of websites that give you the glimpse of what is going on with compliance and regulations. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry just doing compliance because every one of the organizations that's trying to make money just here in the States has to be compliant, and they have to find an outside evaluator to make sure that they're certified or accredited. It's a big business. So there's going to be a lot of talk about how they're doing their work, what they're doing in their work, and then, well, frankly, the goods and the bads of the work itself. So that's what these 2 links are for. So there's nothing really back from this other than I really want you to go ahead and click on it, select exactly what I'm asking you to click on, and read. It only takes you a couple minutes for each one. There's nothing to return back to me, but please do it because these links are good and their stories will update if you see this video in a couple of years. Well, guess what? They'll still be there and I'll have some newer things that are to it. But I want you to start getting into the mindset of what we have to worry about when it comes to risk management and what's out there for IT security from risk and threats.